Now loading Nerdgasm.
I'm gonna be sick!
It's the Nerdgasm Podcast.
That guy is not whelmed. What is it with you and this whelmed thing?
With Alan Bailey and Grayson.
I'm ready.
Nerdgasm, episode 92.
I don't know how to do 92 with my hands.
I'm just flailing arms randomly here. I'm Alan Bailey.
Grayson.
And if you listen to episode 91, we talked about the news that Young Justice is getting a third season. We don't have a date on when it's premiering, nor do we know which network it's on, but it is currently in production. One of the producers on Young Justice, season 1 and 2, is back. They're both back, actually. But Greg Weisman is his name. He tweeted out that he started on Monday, the 14th of November.
Yep.
And we got a chance to catch up with him way back in February 2016 at Long Beach Comic Expo at the Long Beach Convention Center. We stuck a microphone in his face, and this is back when we were still just hoping for a third season, and he put the initiative out there to literally binge season 1 and 2 on Netflix, and was putting the idea in our head on how to get a third season. And here we are. So we thought that we would re-air this episode for you and put it out there and re-upload it for you, or this interview, I should say, mostly so that we can actually just show you where our heads were earlier this year. Just a few months ago. Just a few months ago, Grace.
Just a few.
And
hop, skip, and jump.
Oh, yeah. And more importantly, some of the potential little secrets that he put in there, no pun intended, with the character on season 3, and just the creative process behind it, and more importantly, why Young Justice came to an end so abruptly. So here is that interview from February 2016 with producer of Young Justice, Greg Weisman. So we've been talking about it for a number of weeks, guys. We want to see a third season of Young Justice.
Weeks? How about months?
More like the whole show, actually.
Yeah.
But we're actually very blessed today because we're sitting down with the producer of not only Young Justice, but he also did Spectacular Spider-Man and Gargoyles, amongst other titles. Greg Weisman, thank you so much for being on today with us.
Happy to do it.
So we look at your work. It's phenomenal work. The thing that we love the most about your work is how much character development you put into every single one of your characters. We as audience members fall in love with every single one of the characters in your shows.
Well, that's the plan, so it worked.
What was something that you were blown away with that you got to do when you started working on some of these fantastic shows, like Spider-Man, like Young Justice, like Gargoyles?
Well, you know, I'm a fanboy just like all the rest of you guys out there. I assume all your audience are too, or they probably wouldn't be listening to this. But, I grew up with Spider-Man. It was amazing to get a shot at doing that character. The DC Universe I love, so being able to sort of create our own version of the DC Universe in Young Justice was amazing. I got to play in the Star Wars sandbox for a year or two, and that was great. Probably though, creating Gargoyles from scratch was even more fun than all of that. So, I've done that on my novel series, Reign of the Ghosts, and I love doing that. But I also, I'm a big fan of all these properties, so I love the shot at doing that.
You look at every single series you've been involved in, not only do they have great individual stories in a 22-minute episode, but over the course of the season and seasons, there's a tremendous story that's developed. How do you keep track of all that? Because it's so complex.
I have a very high-tech system. It's called a bulletin board and a lot of index cards. I also use Sharpies and push pins. Really couldn't do it without the push pins because I find that the cards don't stick to the bulletin board very well without them. And we color code it. So, take Spider-Man, for example. We would block out the whole season at once, and we had blue cards for things going on in Peter Parker's life, red cards for things going on in Spidey's life, green cards for the villains. We had yellow cards because in Spectacular Spider-Man, we went through this, we were going through the school year, so the yellow cards were for anything that, was pinpointed in time, like Halloween or Christmas or Thanksgiving or things like that. So anything where the the actual specific time mattered, went into yellow, and we had white cards for flashbacks and stuff like that. And we would just write every little thing that we could think of up on this board. It might be a character, it might be a scene that we came up with, it might just be a line of dialogue that was sort of clever and we didn't want to forget. And we would put that on a card, and then you just start moving the cards around until the season starts to take form. If you've got an episode that's almost all red, you realize, we got to find out what's going on with Peter, so let's get some blue up there, or vice versa. And you want every episode, like you said, to stand alone so that someone could show up in episode 6 and never seen the show before. They get one great Spider-Man story with a beginning, middle, and end, but they also get seeds planted for stuff to come later. And so, hopefully they watch episode 6, they think it's great. They say, I got to show up for 7. They watch 7, they watch 8, they realize, I got to go back and see the ones I missed, And that's the idea. You want every episode to hook them. Whatever episode they come in on, you want them hooked. And then, ultimately on the shows like that, what we're doing is writing for ourselves. We want these shows to be full of all the passion we feel for these characters. So at the end of the day, all I can do is write the kind of television series I would like to watch, and then cross my fingers that there are enough fans out there who would agree with me that they'll show up and watch it too.
Absolutely. And you look at all the shows you've done, you have to do a tremendous amount of planning, not just one season, but we have to think, looking at your work, you have to plan out seasons in advance, not just 1 or 2.
We have a general, for all those shows, we had a general sense of where we would go in succeeding seasons. I don't want to make it sound like, take Young Justice, for example, that we planned 46 episodes from day one. We didn't. But we did plan 26 from day one, and we knew what we wanted to do for season 2. Not all the little details, but the general arc of what season 2 would be. And for that matter, we know the general arc of season 3, 4, 5, at least. And by the time we were done with 3, we'd probably know 6 and 7. But we don't sit down to actually plan all the pipe and all the minutia of the episodes until we get that order. And the reason you do that is, if we had planned season 2 in that kind of detail, we probably would have planned it for 26 episodes. And we only got an order for 20. And we would have been screwed. So, instead, we knew generally what the season was going to be for season 2. And I also had a second bulletin board with a bunch of cards with ideas for subsequent seasons. Then once we actually got the order and they're like, no, this time it's 20, not 26, we're like, okay, so this is what we're able to do. And there were storylines that we wanted to do in season 2 that had to either get pushed to the comic book or pushed to season 3 or later. But we wanted to do more about Zatanna and Zatara and Dr. Fate.
Yes.
We wanted to do more about Captain Marvel and introduce Sergeant Marvel and Lieutenant Marvel. We wanted to do a bunch of things that felt like natural things coming out of season 1, but we just didn't have room for when we only got 20 episodes. And again, I don't want to make it sound like, hey, we wrote scripts for 6 more and they never got made. Because we found out about the number 20 before we started that process, but we had ideas for a lot more.
The thing that I love is that you developed Blue Beetle so beautifully in Young Justice, and it kind of not only brought him into the mainstream and nerds started paying more attention to Blue Beetle, but we fell in love with him and Jaime and his character development, and not only his inner struggles, but his personal struggles and superhero-ly his duty. It was beautifully done.
Well, thanks. I really think, though, it was Brave and the Bold, Batman Brave and the Bold, that really gave the Jaime Reyes Blue Beetle his first sort of showcase on television and brought him into the mainstream. I don't think that was us, but I do think that the work that we did with the character, he was the fulcrum of season 2. The whole season sort of turns on his character. So we started off with him real slow burn. he's talking to himself, but we don't let you hear the scarab at first, and then we let you hear the scarab, and we explain what that was about, but we sort of tell the audience, because that's what he believes, that Ted Kord created that scarab, only to find out later, no, Ted didn't create it. And it was the Reach, and then we introduced Black Beetle and Green Beetle, which was a lot of fun. I have to give props to Eric Lopez, who played both Jaime, Blue Beetle, and the Scarab. Just did amazing work on that. And Kevin Grievous is walking around this convention, and you'll know it when you hear him. He played Black Beetle, and his voice is so low, naturally low, that you hear him talk or laugh, it's him.
It actually gave me nightmares when I watched season 2.
It's stunning. People, would listen to that and go, "What did you do electronically to his voice?" We're like, "Nothing." That's Kevin. That's all Kevin. So he's here somewhere. I saw him earlier today.
Yeah, just keep an ear out for him here in Long Beach. The thing that we're still kind of mourning and looking at was, spoiler alert, the very last episode of season 2, the death of obviously main character in
Wally West.
In Wally West, thank you. Was that hard for you as a nerd, as a fan, to write that and to do that, or was that something that was just a natural process?
Well, both. I mean, it came out of the story. It felt right. But it was painful. I mean, it was painful on all sorts of levels, and it's still sort of, this is going to sound completely sappy, but every time I see that episode, I sort of tear up. And Jason Spizak, who plays Wally, plays Kid Flash, is an amazing actor, amazing guy, and we have to bring in this script and hand him this script, and obviously he doesn't much like being killed off, but the good news is we waited till the last episode. But he actually thanked us, because he said, it's rare that you get to play a character where you get to sort of complete the journey, and he goes out a hero, and we all mourn him.
It was very beautifully done. There's still some fans out there that tear up when they see that. We're amongst them.
Yeah. No, I'm raising my hand saying, I kind of tear up, because when I first saw that, I was like, no.
Well, and that's what we wanted you to feel. But basically, the team in the league, they were fighting a war, and there are casualties in war, and it felt dishonest not to demonstrate that. And we also felt that people used to criticize us for, how come Wally's not as fast as the other guys, and they're like, you don't like him as much as, and I'm like, no, I like him better because of that. Wally's my favorite speedster ever, period. And for me, the fact that he isn't as fast as the others, but he still puts on that suit and goes out and does what he does, that makes him more of a hero, not less of a hero. And so, he vanishes, but he goes out telling the people he loves that he loves them, and can't get much better than that. So.
And now you have 4 nerds that are all starting to get a little choked up here talking about Wally. But obviously there's a lot of rumors going around about a potential 3rd season. We just saw season 2 get put up on Netflix.
Right.
And we've seen you advocating for people to go back and watch and to buy the DVDs. So I know you probably can't say anything official, but is there any new development?
There's nothing official to say, so I want to be really, really clear about this. On February 1st, Netflix finally, after a couple of years of only having season 1 up, finally put season 2 up. And I started all this, I admit it. I tweeted, look, if you guys want season 3, a practical, pragmatic strategy for getting it is to go on Netflix and binge watch season 1 and season 2 over and over and over again. Now that season 2 is up, this is a perfect time to sort of show Netflix, show Warner Brothers that that the property is financially viable. Everyone knows it's creatively good. There's no one at Warner Brothers who's sitting there going, that show sucked. No one is saying that. Everyone knows it was good. But there was no money to produce it after season 2 because the toy line failed, and that's what paid for our budget. But if it is a big success on Netflix, or if it's a big success in DVD or Blu-ray, that makes a big difference. So if you don't have Netflix, what I advised is to go out and buy the DVDs or buy the Blu-rays. It would also help, because DC Comics owns these characters, if you go out on Comixology and buy the Young Justice companion comics or the trades off Comixology. Now, if you go to a secondhand store and find an old Young Justice toy and you want to buy it, more power to you. You've got the toy, that's great. But that doesn't help us right now, because that money doesn't go back to the toy company. It doesn't go to Warner Brothers. That toy was already bought by someone and then resold on eBay or whatever. I'm not knocking that stuff, Etsy or eBay or anything like finding something in a comic book bin or something like that. But that money doesn't count towards the companies anymore, and we need to show the companies. You buy off Comixology, that money goes to DC, and they know people are interested in Young Justice. You buy the DVDs and Blu-rays off of Amazon or at some, Best Buy store or something like that. That money, a portion of that money goes to Warner Brothers, and they know that people want more of the show. You binge watch on Netflix. Every time you view even one episode, a little check mark goes off on a Netflix computer, and obviously one person watching one episode makes no difference at all, except if all those Young Justice fans out there watch over and over again on Netflix, that'll start to register with Netflix. Now, I tweeted that, and pretty soon I was getting responses back like, he wouldn't tweet that if it wasn't happening. And I'm like, no, if it was happening, I wouldn't have to tweet anything. I'm tweeting this because this is a strategy. People were writing me and going, so if we do this, do you promise it'll happen? I'm like, I can't make that kind of promise, but this is the best strategy we've had, and I truly believe this, the best chance we've had since Young Justice went off the air. If we can all do this and keep doing it over and over and over again, hell, I'm not kidding. Turn on Netflix, put on Young Justice, and then go make dinner. I mean, you don't even have to watch the damn thing. Just have it running on Netflix to demonstrate to Netflix and to Warner Brothers that you want this show. This is a pragmatic way and the best chance to get it done. Now, again, I had people tweet, because I hate the goddamn internet, honestly. I mean, I have a love-hate relationship with the internet that's about 80% hate and only 20% love.
Well, let's hope that you're part of the you like us, because I hope we're part of the 20% that you love.
That's right. But the thing is that, someone tweeted me, we got to get this trending on Twitter. And I'm like, well, that'd be nice, but that's not the point. The point is to get it trending on Netflix. And then he actually wrote back to me and going, it's the same thing, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yes, it completely matters. If it's on Twitter, that's nice, and maybe someone at Warner Brothers notices. But if it is, it's going to be some lowly, production assistant or something like that. If you do it on Netflix, that's money, that's cha-ching. That's what they care about. So it makes a huge difference. I had someone else, again, Kari Payton, retweeted my tweet and then wrote, I have a very good feeling about this, which was just him being optimistic and positive, and then people are writing back, see, Kari wouldn't write that if it wasn't already happening. They're just being cagey. And I'm like, no, we're not being cagey. We need to do this, So, and all sorts of strange things. Now, there has been a little bit of good news, but I want to emphasize how little it is. One is that a few people have gone on to the sort of Netflix support and talked to some of the people who answer those responses and said, hey, we've been binging Young Justice, we really want a season 3. And they got some messages back saying, oh, I like that show too, I'm going to pass your message on to the next level. And that's great, and I don't want to make it sound like that's bad. That's a good thing. I would recommend that if you want to do this, be very polite. If you get on and say, F you if you don't get YJ Season 3, that doesn't help. Hostility's met with hostility. But if you're polite and say, we love this show, we'd love for you to do it, they're inclined to listen. But you got to keep in mind, again, the people who are responding, they're not top brass. They're not decision makers. They'll pass it on. But, just because someone writes back and say, oh, I love that show too. Yeah, we should really do that. That doesn't mean it's happening. So it doesn't mean, okay, we can stop now because it's done. I'll let you know when you can stop. You can follow me on Twitter at Greg_Weisman, Weisman. And you can follow or friend me on Facebook. I have 2 pages, a pro page and my own page. And I don't understand Facebook. I can never tell which one I'm on. But I do understand Twitter, so Twitter's a better way to reach me. But believe me, if this thing is happening and it's going, I'll tell you. I'm not trying to hide it. It's just, at the moment, nothing is happening, but we have an opportunity. And I want us to capitalize on this opportunity, but I don't want to fool anybody. I don't want to make promises I can't keep or anything like that. I just want to try and make it happen, but it's really up to the fans. People tweet me and they go, why don't you just do a 3rd season? I'm like, I don't own it. It's not up to me. I need you guys to convince, and not one person, but everybody to convince these companies that it's worth doing.
And I feel like we need to ask a couple of questions because, frankly, the internet has had misleading information. If whatever company came to you and said, we want a 3rd season, are you interested? Are you interested?
I am. Both Brandon Vietti and I, Brandon was my partner on the series, we are dying to do a 3rd season. To be honest, if they hadn't stopped us, we'd be on season 6 by now. I mean, we'd still be going. No one wants to stop this show. No one at Warner Brothers wants to stop this show, period, but it's got to have a way to pay for itself. If that's via Netflix or if that's via Warner Brothers Home Entertainment or DC or whatever, there are a lot of different ways to do it, but the way we were doing it for seasons 1 and 2 was Mattel and the toys. So when the toy line failed, no money, there we went. This is a way to get it going again. If they come to us and say, we want to do it, Brandon and I, we've talked about it, we jump back on in a minute.
Do you have, not anything written in stone, but do you have ideas for season 3 and beyond that you've written down, or a general idea? Is that something that you guys still have to work out?
We'd have to, like I said, we'd have to get the order, find out how many episodes we're talking about, and break the season. But we know the basic arc of season 3. We know the basic arc of seasons 4 and 5. And we have ideas even beyond that. So, we're ready to go if and when they say yes. But no, we haven't broken the season yet because, again, they could come back and say 26 episodes, 20 episodes, 13 episodes. Until we know how many episodes we've got, there's no way to break the season, So, but we know generally what the 3rd season is, without a doubt.
If you guys want Young Justice Season 3, you heard it right here. Buy the toys from Mattel.
No, not the toys.
But
the comics.
Too late for the toys. It's too late for the toys. It would have been great to buy the toys when the show was on the air. Now it's too late. Now what you need to do is binge watch on Netflix over and over again, season 1 and season 2. Buy the DVDs or Blu-rays, but from a first, don't get them secondhand. Don't get them on eBay. Get them from Amazon or from Best Buy or small store's fine, but make sure you're buying it first run. You're not buying something that someone used.
Yeah.
Or download and buy the comics off Comixology. Again, great if you can find the actual issues. I'm happy to sign them, all that kind of stuff. But right now, those books are out of print. Anytime you buy those issues, the actual hard copy issues, that money is not going to DC anymore. Those issues were already sold. So go out and download them off of Comixology. Buy the issues too. I'm happy for that also. I want everyone to have them, but in terms of affecting the companies, you need to get them off Comixology.
Watch on Netflix, buy the DVDs, buy that comic book from the source. There you go, if you want a Young Justice Season 3. Greg, thank you so much for clarifying the internet. It's a huge help,
Yeah.
But thank you for sitting down with us. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
I love the fact that he's able to just talk to us like a regular person.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, just giving us all that information, just telling us exactly how it is, not trying to hide, not trying to say that like, oh well, I didn't get enough money, so I pulled the plug on it. Unfortunately, that's a lot of people out there. They're thinking to themselves that that's why that happened. No, that's not why it happened.
Yeah.
So now you know.
Yeah, and thank you to Greg Weisman for literally putting up with an interview or with a microphone shoved in his face for 20 minutes. We didn't expect that. We honestly looked at each other and said, well, if we get 5 minutes with him, that's amazing.
Seriously.
And we got 20 minutes with him. He loves the show a lot. He's very passionate about all the shows that he's worked on. He created Gargoyles, amazing show. My favorite show that he's worked on, Spectacular Spider-Man, which also ran just 2 seasons. Phenomenal Spideyverse show. And Young Justice, obviously, but right now he's also working on
Star Wars Rebels.
So he's got a lot under his belt. He's a very experienced producer, writer, and he's one of my favorite people working in animation right now, hands down. I can't wait for Young Justice Season 3. We'll have to see when it comes out, where it comes out. That information, as always, will be up on our website when it becomes available.
I'm down.
So there you go. For the Nerdgasm Podcast, episode 92, I'm Alan Bailey.
I'm Grayson.
See you, nerds.
What?